Alrighty, we are live now. I'm coming at you from a rather sunny Gold Coast this morning. However, I've got the blinds down. So today's video, today's live is, I was going through the notes that I've made for this live, and I've got a feeling it's going to be a bit of a long video. But that being said, I also think that's a video that if you take notes, this could be the exact video, the exact roadmap that you need to really be able to accelerate your coaching business, especially if you're in that place where you're feeling stuck or you're struggling to hit that six-figure mark. So I want to start out with this, and that is that most coaches, they don't fail because they're bad at coaching. They fail because they are missing a system to grow their business. Now, don't get me wrong, there are so many different systems out there and methods and ways of doing it. And I think you're always going to find someone that's probably making 6 or 7 figures on a system that you think probably wouldn't work for you. So the real problem, it isn't that a system doesn't work. The real problem comes when there's no system at all, or when a coach, they have a system, but they give this sort of half-hearted effort, and instead they end up blaming the process instead of holding the mirror up and pointing the finger back at themselves and noticing that they didn't put in enough effort. I mean, if you think of it like planting a seed, if you plant a seed, you don't just water it once and then expect to suddenly get an amazing plant or amazing tree. But I think that that's what a lot of coaches, they do with their businesses. They sprinkle a little bit of effort here and there, and then they start to wonder why nothing grows. So, I'm just putting something into my screen there. Okay. So I've been speaking on stages now for just over the last 15 years. And within that, I've also run training sessions. I've done coaching as well. And I've seen a lot of things of what works and what doesn't. And so what I want to share with you in this video is the process that I've used for myself to become one of Australia's top speakers. But it's also a process that I've seen my clients use, and they've built businesses that they are genuinely proud of. But I do want to say, I'm not saying that the way that I'm going to show you today is the only way, but what I will say is this, that after a decade and a half of trial and error and learning from the best, I believe that these 6 foundations that I'm going to share with you today, I call them the 6 C's, these actually work. I think if you miss one, or you don't have one of these dialed in, there's a good chance that you're going to continue to struggle, or you'll find yourself staying stuck. But if you put them all together, like a jigsaw puzzle, you fast track your way to 6 figures and potentially beyond. So I'm going to walk you through each one of the C's. And as I do, I want you to ask yourself, and I want you to answer it honestly for yourself, do you really have this thing in place? Because I think once you identify whereabouts maybe you're a little bit low, that's when the breakthroughs are really going to start to happen. So I'm going to draw this on the screen for you as we go down through. So here we go. Let me bring up I'm going to draw it as a triangle. I've got to split this into 6. Look at that amazing triangle. Hey, 4, 5, 6. We're going to go down through each one of these. Each one of these is a C. Now, I do believe that there is a pathway to this, so you do want to sort of move your way down. But the first one that we have is, you see out there? There, clarity. So when it comes to clarity, if you think about this initial step of clarity, without this, if you don't have clarity, everything else is going to feel really messy. So if you can't explain who you help, the specific problem that you solve, and the result that you drive, then your coaching business is going to end up feeling like a guessing game. And I think this is the thing. There's a lot of coaches that initially when they're starting out, they try to help everyone, which usually means that they end up helping no one. So let me give you a few examples of things that I've seen in the past. And look, I've made the mistake of this as well myself in the past, and I'm always looking at, can I refine this down a little bit more? But you've got some coaches that might say something like, I help people improve their life. So then you're sort of thinking, well, okay, improve people's lives, but what, how? It doesn't give me much. Or it could be, I help I help ambitious, high level, spiritual, curious entrepreneurs unlock unlimited potential. So it sounds really fancy, but no one actually knows what the hell that means. And I think my personal favorite is when someone says something along the lines of, I help everyone achieve success in every area of their life. Now, that'd be absolutely fantastic if we could actually do that as coaches, but as a business idea, it's completely unworkable. But I hope that you see the problem there. None of those statements that I just said to you make someone say, oh, yes, that's me. You are talking to me. I finally found the person who can help me. So when it comes to your coaching business, you need to get super clear on who you help, the problem that they face, and the outcome that you can deliver. So clear, specific, outcome focused. And if you notice, when you do that, it's not about you. It becomes about them, the person who you are trying to help. So even coaches who have been at this a while, that are saying that they're still struggling to get clients, they think that they have this dialed in. They think that they have their niche dialed in, but the reality is that they probably don't. They're often so worried about missing out, they get the FOMO, that they keep their message really broad and vague, and that's exactly why people aren't connecting with it. But when we look at clarity, it isn't just about your message. If we look at clarity as well, it's also about what your business actually looks like. So there's a lot of coaches that end up building something that feels really heavy, it feels really complicated, or worse still, you end up creating a business that you don't actually enjoy running. So clarity really means defining what success looks like for you. So is it that you mostly want like one-on-one clients? Is it that you want to do group coaching? Is it that you want to create online programs and just have people learn at their own speed? Do you want to create a mix of those? How do you want your days to feel? Because if you don't define it, you're going to end up running around trying to copy somebody else's version of success, and you're probably not going to enjoy it. You might even end up hating it, which is the worst place that you want to be when you didn't get into this for that. So we also, when it comes to clarity, we also need to get really clear on who your clients are and what challenges they're facing. On a daily basis, what's going on inside their head? When they're in the shower, what is going on inside your client's head? What are they thinking about when all the noise is quietened down? So if you can speak to that, if you can speak to what that person worries about in the shower, so it could be, I'm tired of chasing clients month to month. I feel like I'm stuck at 2 or 3 clients. What ends up happening is that they feel seen, and they're more likely to trust that you can help them. And while we're still staying in clarity, the final bit that I want to share with you today around clarity is about focus. So if you've got a whole bunch of different offers, so 7 different offers, 3 different kinds of audiences that you want to serve, and you've got a to-do list that never ends, you're going to find it a constant struggle. Now, a really good book, I've got it on Audible. There's a great book, and that's called, so it's Gary Keller's The One Thing. It's a really deep dive into the power of really getting focused on one thing. So think of focus like a sat nav. So so if you jump in the car and you don't have an address, you don't type anything into the sat nav, you don't really know where you're going. You just go drive around in circles, you're wasting time and energy. But the moment that you set a destination into that GPS, all of a sudden the map appears, and suddenly that journey, it starts to feel really simple. So this is what I want you to ask yourself. Could you explain your business in one clear sentence that makes your ideal client say, you're the person who can help me? And do you have a really clear picture of what you're actually building for a business? Something that feels exciting and sustainable, not something that feels really overwhelming. If the answer to that question is no, or to those couple of questions is no, then I would say stop watching this video right now, because clarity is definitely going to be your first domino. If you can nail that, everything else is just going to start to fall into place. So that is the first C. First C was clarity. The second C is, hopefully you can read that, content. That is the second C. So you got clarity dialed in. You know you know who you're helping, where you're heading. The next step is content. Content is how people discover you. It's how they connect with your story and how they're going to start to see you as an authority. I think one of the problems that I see is that a lot of coaches, they post randomly. And look, I know that I was really guilty of this, which is why I've got a really low social following, because most of my work over the last 15 years has come through referrals. So I didn't need to post on social media. So I'm in this position now where I'm playing a catch-up game when it comes to the social media side of things. But for a lot of coaches, what I see is it's one day it's a motivational quote that they might have found on Instagram. The next day it's some really long ramble. And then they might post nothing for a week or 2 weeks because they end up being stuck thinking, well, what do I even post? What do I talk about? What do I say? Here's the thing. Good content isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent and adding value. So good content is about being consistent and adding value. Now, I'm going to be upfront. I'm still working on the social media thing. I definitely don't consider myself a social media expert by any means. However, in saying that, from what I've done over the last 15 years, working with amazing speakers, being on stages, watching other speakers, and myself being in that communication space, this is for like the last 15 years, I know how to communicate in a way that actually connects with an audience. And that's far more important than posting out a video and you're just chasing likes or you're chasing trends. So let's have obviously you could really deep dive into this, and I'm only just going to scratch the surface in this video. But there are 3 types of content that instantly spring to my mind that should be a staple for coaches. So whether this is content on social media, whether it's content of you speaking from stage, these 3 types of content, they're gonna add value to anybody watching. First one is authority content. So this is where you share your expertise, maybe some of your frameworks, your opinions, so that you show to people that you know your stuff. The second type is connection content. This is where you just tell simple stories about yourself and your beliefs that make people feel like they're getting to know you. And then there is what I'm going to call conversion content. So these are posts that invite people to take the next step with you. Now you need to get a bit of balance of these and create the right recipe so that you're not doing too much of one. But here's the thing, you've also got to look at how often you're going to post. Because most coaches, they end up burning out by suddenly saying, right, I'm going to do social media. I'm going to do twice a week, 7 days a week, twice a day, 7 days a week. And it just becomes too much for them. And then they end up going, well, do you know what? I've posted 14 times. I'm not going to do anything for the next couple of weeks. That kind of system doesn't work. What you need is just a really simple content calendar that you can actually stick to. So it might, for you, it might just be 3 times a week. Maybe you do 1 authority piece, 1 connection piece, 1 conversion piece, something that's simple, repeatable, and it's also something that you'll be able to sustain. But you need a process as well of how you're going to create that content. If you're going to sit down every single day and ask, okay, what am I going to post about today? You're going to find yourself ending up feeling really frozen. So what I do is I batch my ideas. So into my schedule, I will put, at the moment, I use Mondays as my day of filming and also writing the content. So Mondays, I'll write content and then I'll film. And then I'm in the position where I don't edit my videos anymore. I have an amazing person on the team who does the editing for me. But I have a process. So I know that, okay, Mondays is right. So I sit down, I write content, and then I'm going to film it. And I might do a little bit of filming again later on in the week. So you got to have a process in place. And then let's talk about stories, because this is where a lot of coaches go wrong as well with stories. I think a lot of coaches think that stories have to be this dramatic Hollywood masterpiece, but that's not true. Simple stories can often be the most powerful. So you could tell a story of maybe a client who went from really frustrated to getting their first paying client. You could tell a story of a time that you struggled, and in that struggle, what is it that you learned, and how has that shaped the way that you coach today? You could even share a story about an everyday moment and how that ties back to some kind of bigger lesson. Because here's what I know, and it's what I work with a lot of amazing speakers. So here's what I know and what other great speakers know, and that is that stories stick. Stories cause an audience to remember. Stories cause an audience to connect. So ask yourself this. I want you to ask yourself this. Do you have a content system set up? Or are you just posting and hoping that something lands? Because if you're doing it that second way, where you're just posting and hoping it lands, it's time to shift from random posting to instead being very intentional with your content. So let's move into the third C. The third C is all around, I should have written this vertical instead. It would have made it a lot easier for me. The third C is capture. So here's where a lot of coaches really get stuck. They're putting content out. So you've got clear on who you're serving, you're putting content out there, you're getting likes, you're getting comments. But let's be honest, likes are not going to pay the bills for you. What you need is a way to be able to take those people, so capture their attention, and then turn that into a lead. So as we unpack this, let's think about the way in which you get people in front of your message. So there are a few ways that we can do this. So you can go organic. So organic from social media posts. If you've got a small audience, this one's really hard. I'm struggling with this one, trying to do organic. So I will use paid traffic instead. So running a little bit into ads. So you've got paid, so you've got organic traffic, paid traffic. You can do partnerships. So I would also put using influencers within this, where you might actually pay to use an influencer. I'd put that in there as well. Then you've got speaking from stages, which is a very powerful way to connect with a lot of people. I think that if you can get the video side of things, you're probably going to be more powerful. But stages are a great way because you will build a lot of authority as well by being up on the stage. Then you could be someone that attends networking events. And although this I feel is quite a slow way to do it. And then you could also leverage other people's audiences on, for example, on podcasts. And I've seen quite a lot of people do this and do this very successfully. So real quick story here. When I wanted to break into the corporate speaking world, I knew that in order for me to be able to get onto the stages that I wanted to get onto, if I wanted to get booked for those bigger events, then I needed to raise my profile. So what I did was I used TV. Now this was back in 2012. I'm making myself feel old now, but this was back in 2012, and TV at that time was really effective at doing it. So have you got a way in which you can leverage audience? How are you going to pull people in to see your message? And then you also got to think about, like, whereabouts are these people hanging out? So you don't want to spread yourself thin across every single platform if you know that your people are probably going to be on LinkedIn. So if they're going to be on LinkedIn, then you show up consistently there. If you think they're going to be on Instagram, then focus there. It's not about necessarily being everywhere. It's about being whereabouts your audience really is, especially if it's just you in your team. If it's just you on your own as a solopreneur at the moment, it can be hard to be across all of them. So just get really good at one instead. So look, once you've got people coming in, you're capturing people's attention, then you need to give them a next step. And this is where opt-in and lead magnets, there's a lot of different names for them, but opt-ins and lead magnets, this is where these come in. So for example, I haven't got it to hand, but I've got something which I call the confidence calculator, which is a little PDF that you can download, fill it in, and it's a really quick thing where you can basically self-rate whereabouts you're confident and whereabouts you're lacking confidence. In addition to that, also in September, so at the time of recording this, I am running a storytelling workshop. So this is another thing that I'm getting people to step forwards for. So this is, as I say, it's a free workshop. In actual fact, if you'd like to come to that, all you got to do is head over to Instagram, comment the word workshop on any one of my posts on Instagram, and my little chat bot will send you all of the details so that you can register for the workshop. So my Instagram handle is Anthony Lay, @AnthonyLaySpeaks. So if you want to come to that, then just head over to Instagram and leave the comment workshop on any one of the posts. But anyway, I don't want to talk about that in this. But this is the thing. When somebody says, so when you put a little offer out there, so hey, look, I've got this confidence calculator. When someone sees that and they say, "Oh, you know what, that looks pretty good. I like the look of that." Have you then got a place to send them? So do you have like a landing page where they can enter in their details, or are you just trying to wing all of this in the DMs? Because if you're honest, if you're trying to do it all manually, and as I say, if you're working on your own, it's going to become overwhelming really fast. So I think that's why setting up some basic automations can be really helpful. It's also pretty cheap as well. And in actual fact, if you want to see this in action, if you do head over to Instagram and on any one of my posts, just type in the word workshop, you will see my little automation send you through the link so that you can register for it. And that's how simple the automation can be. So it doesn't need to be complicated, but you do need to have it organized. So what I want you to think about is this. In wrapping up this section on capture, I want you to ask yourself, how are you going to move people one step closer to you? So when they see your post, when they listen to your podcast, when they hear you on stage, what is the bridge between their interest and a real conversation about working with you? So let's move into the fourth C. Let's have a real quick check in here, because what we've gone through so far, we're halfway through. We've looked at clarity, first of all, getting really clear on who you serve and the type of business that you're after. And we've got content. How are you structuring your content? How are you putting content out there? Capture is, okay, people are seeing your content. How are you now capturing their information and pulling them into your world a little bit more? Then the next thing that we need to think about is craft. And so what do I mean by craft? So think of craft as the actual thing that you are going to offer people, whereabouts they're then going to engage you for your services. So this would be your coaching offer. This is the thing that you're inviting people into. So this is where you might end up tripping up. So some don't really have an offer. Some coaches just sell sessions. So you know the kind of thing, it's like $100 or $200 for an hour for a bit of coaching, or you can get 3 sessions for $500. The problem is, in my opinion, I don't think that feels valuable. People don't want sessions, people want solutions. So your job as a coach is to package up your ideas, your wisdom, your expertise into a clear structure. A structure that makes your coaching easier to explain, easier to sell, and easier for clients to say yes to. Then you got to ask yourself, how are you going to deliver this? So are you the kind of person that wants, are you the kind of person that wants to create multi-day in-person events? Do you want to offer live group coaching online? Is it one-on-one coaching and then you'll walk people through your framework? Is it a self-paced pre-recorded program? Or maybe it's a bit of a mix of all of those things. Here's the thing, there isn't necessarily a right answer. It's about, going back to the beginning, you having a business that works for you. It's about designing something that you're going to be excited about creating, a business that you're going to run, because you're going to be running this thing for a while. So you want to make sure that you're creating something that is going to work for you. So the process that you have set up, that needs to work for you. But what really matters is the packaging of this. So when somebody says to you, what do? You need to be able to explain the journey that you'll take them on really clearly and succinctly. So you don't just say, oh yeah, well, I just coach people, but you want to say something along the lines of, well, look, this is the problem that you start with. These are the steps or stages that we go through, and here's the outcome that you're going to walk away with. So think of it like a travel agent. If you went in and you asked about a holiday, and they said, well, look, what happens is you just get on the plane and we see where else it goes. So unless you're somebody that likes a sense of adventure and uncertainty, you're probably not going to book that holiday. You would want to know whereabouts. You'd want to know whereabouts you're starting, whereabouts you're ending, and then what's included along the way. And your coaching program is exactly the same. So here's a question. Here's a question that I want you to think about here is, could you explain your coaching offer in a way that makes your ideal client say, that's exactly what I need? Because if not, then it might be time to refine your craft, to refine your offer. Because when your offer is really crystal clear, getting people to say yes, that's going to become a whole lot easier. Alrighty, let's move into the next C. And I haven't left myself much room to write. So I'm going to draw a little arrow. And this is credibility. Credibility as the next C. So I think this is a reality, to be honest. Without credibility, you just become another coach making noise, another coach making promises out there. But with credibility, you become a coach who is the obvious choice. Now, credibility is going to show up in a few ways. First is what people see. So if someone lands on your profile or your website right now, what impression do they get? Does your brand look nice and clean and professional and confident? Or does it look like you've just thrown a whole bunch of stuff together? So sometimes it can be as simple as using some professional photographs instead of ones that maybe you've gone out and you've taken with your iPhone camera. Or maybe it could be creating a consistent look across all of your posts. And then you have what I call authority markers. So this can be people who you've worked with, what results that you've delivered. Have you got case studies? Do you have client testimonials? Do you have screenshots of wins from some of your coaching calls? So all of these things are signals to say, I'm not just talking about this, I've actually done this. So for me, as I mentioned earlier, credibility, for me, it really started when I used TV to position myself. So having the clips of me on stage and on screen became really powerful tools to be able to show that I wasn't just another presenter. I was someone who was recognized as an authority. And because of that, I then went on to work with some global companies. So I would then get testimonials from them. I would then use their logos, and that combination of stage footage, brand associations, and then client results, that built a level of trust that then opened up doors to even bigger opportunities and even bigger stages as a speaker. But here's the thing, you don't have to start out with a global company. Maybe you've got some stage shots. Maybe you haven't got any stage shots yet. So if you haven't, then what I would say is go and create some opportunities. So you could volunteer to speak at a local event. You could run your own workshop. You could get yourself onto a podcast. Then get those photographs, get those clips that show you in action, because perception really matters. Think of credibility as your proof bank. So every testimonial, every case study, every stage shot, every logo that you're able to show, that all goes into the bank. And the fuller your bank, the faster people are going to be able to trust you. So I want you to ask yourself this. If somebody was to look you up right now, can they see proof that you can deliver results? Or have they got to take your word for it? Okay, we're going to get into the final C down here, which if I'm going to use more of the corporate terminology, this would be conversion. If you're going to use the Anthony talk, then this is cash in. So what am I talking about here? I think the name pretty much says it all. So this is the part where all of your effort from so all of these steps here, all of this effort that you've put in on these 5 steps, this is where it all starts to pay off. And I'm talking literally pay off. Because I'm pretty sure that you didn't get into coaching to just be busy. You got in because you wanted to build a business, to make an impact. And yes, you wanted to make money as well. So conversion is all about turning the clarity, the content, the capture, the craft and the credibility into clients and into cash in the bank. Now, this is whereabouts a lot of coaches freeze. And this could well be you. So you could be that coach that you love coaching, you love helping people, but the moment that it comes to sales, you get really funny about it. It doesn't feel right. But selling doesn't have to feel like that. If you think about it, selling done well is actually serving. It's about having a conversation where you explore where someone's at right now, whereabouts they want to be, then what's getting in the way, and then whether your program, whether your coaching offer is the right vehicle to get them there. Now, if you look at it from that perspective, that it's where they are right now, whereabouts they want to be, what are the obstacles in the way, and can your program actually help them get through those obstacles and get to this point here? If you look at it like that, to be honest with you, that's it. It's just a conversation. There's no pressure, no manipulation, just clarity. Think of it like being a mountain guide. If someone says to you, I want to go and climb that mountain over there, and then you ask, well, whereabouts are you starting from? They go, okay, I'm starting from here. You then go, well, okay, in order to get to there, these are the obstacles. And then you say, look, I've got a map. I've led people up this route before. And if you'd like me to, I can guide you through it. That's not being pushy, that's just being helpful. So I heard a really great quote. I was watching a podcast the other day. Simon Bowen, hopefully I get his surname right. Simon Bowen from Models Method. Highly recommend you check him out. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. This wasn't actually his quote. He referenced somebody else in the podcast, but I can't remember who he said. But I do need to give somebody credit, as this isn't mine. But the quote went like this: "Sales is getting people emotionally involved in a future that's good for them." And I thought that was amazing, especially that really dial in on the end bit there. Sales is getting people emotionally involved in a future that's good for them. Because here's the thing, if you can genuinely help somebody climb their mountain, then sales shouldn't feel icky at all. In fact, people are going to love you for it because you're helping them achieve the life that they want. You're helping them climb the mountains that they want to climb. The key for you, though, as a coach is having a repeatable conversion process or a repeatable cash-in process that feels natural for you. So not winging it every time. Otherwise, it's always going to feel like your business is really fragile. You're always going to be worried about the sales when it comes to the sales side of things. So just something that's repeatable and it feels natural for you. So there you have it. There are the 6 C's: clarity, content, capture, craft, credibility, and conversion. Look, even if one of these is missing, you're probably is going to feel a lot. Growing the coaching business is probably going to feel a lot harder than it actually needs to be. But when you put these 6 things together, that's when things really start to click. That's when your coaching business becomes clear, consistent, and also profitable. So here's what I want you to do next. If you found this video valuable, then please make sure that you hit the like button. It really does help other coaches find this content. If you are watching this at the start of September and you would like to attend the free storytelling workshop, which is happening, so Australia time, it's happening on the 11th of September from 10 till 12. If you're over different parts of the world, then unfortunately you're gonna have to figure out what time that is for you. But if you do want to register for that, it is completely free. Just head over to my Instagram profile, which is @AnthonyLaySpeaks. Just comment the word workshop on any one of my posts, and then my little chat bot will send you out the details. And finally, if you are a coach who is ready to build your confidence, your credibility, and hit that 6 figures plus, and you want to discuss what it would be like to work together, then just shoot me a DM and we can have a bit of a chat about that. But look, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video, but leave it in the comments below. Which one of the C's would you need to work on first? See you in the next video.